Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining me for this wrap-up video for the Boo to You Read-A-Thon. Stick around and hear all the books I read this month. Hi, so we're right now November 1st and Boo to You is officially over. And I want to say that I'm very happy with all the books I read this month for the Boo to You Read-A-Thon. I really enjoyed, for the most part, I think all the books that I actually read. I think there was one book that I kind of switched out. So, one of the books that was in my original TBR, I did not finish. But as it happened, I was also doing the Victober Read-A-Thon. So one of the books in that TBR actually works perfect with the prompt of the book that I didn't finish reading. So I kind of just switched that one out. So I'll just go with that first book because I don't want to confuse anyone. So I was originally reading Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte for the Haunted Mansion prompt. I think that was the last ticket, the e-ticket, because I'm not sure if you remember, but so the way we chose our TBR for this readathon was a series of tickets that originally were, so when Disney World first opened, they had tickets, a ticket booklet, and each ticket had a number of attractions, and you could choose one of those attractions and get on the ride. For the e-ticket, the ride I chose was the Haunted Mansion, and for that ride I chose Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. But I did not finish this book. It is a book that I'm continuing to read, so I will be finishing hopefully this month for another readathon. But the book that I switched it out for is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, so Charlotte's sister. I actually read Wuthering Heights for the Victober readathon, which I was also doing in the month of October, and I think it works perfectly with the Haunted Mansion prompt. So I feel like I did make my goal of all the books that were on my TBR, even though I did make the switch in the middle of the readathon. So that was actually this was the last book I read for Victober. The last book that I read for Boo to You was Snow and Rose, and this was for the Snow White's Adventures. I gave Wuthering Heights 3 stars on Goodreads. In actuality, I don't know if it really deserved the 3 stars, but I did like Emily Bronte's writing, although I would say this tale is not for the faint of heart, and if you have triggers of abuse or emotional anxiety or any type of very stressful situation, you might have a hard time reading this book. I felt it emotionally draining at times, but I did feel that Emily Bronte's writing was great. The characters were very lively. The characters in her book were very realistic. I mean, they just jumped off the pages at you. So for that reason, I gave it a 3 stars. But I would say that it's a very difficult read if you're an emotional person. That's what I would say. So I would take that with a grain of salt. And if you love this book, I would love to hear how you feel about this book. I know that some people like it or hate it. I know some people say that you either like it or you hate it. I wouldn't say I hate it. But I don't know if I could read it again anytime soon. It's just, for me, very hard to read because, like I said, it was emotionally draining. But I wouldn't characterize it as a romance, although I know a lot of people see it that way. I feel like it's more of a revenge tale. So let me know. I would like to hear what your thoughts are on Wuthering Heights. But the next book I wanted, Rose, this is the last book I finished for Boo to You. I think I finished this on October 31st, actually. I think, yeah, the morning of October 31st, I finished this. I chose this as the prompt for Snow White's Adventures. I think that's the name of the ride. I'm not sure. I think that was on the B ticket. I'm not sure, but I will put that ticket up here. And I really enjoyed reading this book. I will say it's not anything like the Walt Disney version of Snow White. This is a totally different story. I think it might have a more closer relation to the Grimm's Tale of Snow White and Rose White, but I've not read that tale either. I just really thought this was a great read. I really enjoyed it, even though I think this is a middle grade book. I really felt it compelling, and I got into the story from the beginning. It's a very charming book as well. There's a lot of beautiful illustrations in this book. Let me find one for you. This is one of the characters in the book. That's Eyre. And this story is about Snow and Rose, who are sisters, and their father disappears from a trip. He never comes home, and so consequently, they eventually have to move out of their beautiful home and into a cottage in the woods that belonged to their mother's uncle, I believe. And their life changes dramatically from there. So this story kind of follows what happens to them after their father goes missing, and we do kind of learn what happens to their father. So I would recommend this book for sure. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if it's just the whole I don't know if it's the whole classic kind of fairy tale. I felt like there's this one picture I want to show you in this book, and I just had it. So here's that picture I wanted to show you. The illustrations are very vivid and beautiful. This is just such a classic fairy tale. I really enjoyed this book from beginning to end, and I would recommend it. It's by Emily Winfield Martin, and it's called Snow and Rose, if you didn't catch that at the beginning. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads, of course. I loved the book, and I can't say anything more about it. It was just a great read to me. So the next book I finished was Mary Poppins by P.L. Travers. So this is the first book that I started. It is the first, from the first ticket, the A ticket. It is the prompt for Cinderella's Carousel, and I chose Mary Poppins because Mary Poppins would occasionally ride the merry-go-round with other guests of Walt Disney World, and so I thought this was a great inspiration to read Mary Poppins. I actually never read the Mary Poppins story. I've only seen the screen adaptation of Mary Poppins, the Walt Disney version of this story, and it is completely different from the book, I will say. I have read another Mary Poppins book. I think that was Mary Poppins on Cherry Tree Lane. I'll put a picture of that book up here so you can see the book I'm talking about. And I enjoyed that one. I think I enjoyed that one a little bit more than I enjoyed this story of Mary Poppins, and this is actually the first story in the series. But I did enjoy it. I gave it 3 stars. This, I kind of think that Mary Poppins, it's so much different from the Walt Disney version. I wasn't expecting it to be that different. I kind of figured it would be somewhat different, depending on what inspiration or what direction the writers want to go on. But this actually is a lot different from the screen adaptation of Mary Poppins. On Mary Poppins, we kind of follow a continuous story. It kind of deals more with Mr. Banks, and we don't really get a lot of Mr. Banks in the story. He is mentioned, and he does come out, and there is a part where he does want the children to come visit him at his bank, but that's pretty much it. We don't even hear about their actual visit to the bank, just that they're gonna go on this visit to the bank, but you don't really hear about what happens while they get there. It's pretty much the story of what happens before they get there, because on their way to the bank they meet the bird lady, I think that's what she's called, who feeds the pigeons and sings her lovely songs, Feed the Birds, Top in the Bag. So this book is just kind of made up of a bunch of anecdotes of Mary Poppins' adventures with the children. Also, I found out there are 2 other Banks children. Also, I discovered that there are 2 other Banks children. There are a younger brother and sister, and I cannot remember their names right now because I did read this at the beginning of the month and I've read a lot since then. But they're adorable, and I did enjoy their story. They had their own story in this book, and so you get a little bit contents on their lives, and they are quite small, so it's not you don't get a lot from them. But the other characters you meet in this book are very interesting and magical, as just like Mary Poppins, she's a magical person, and so of course I am not surprised she has magical friends. So I found that very interesting, and I enjoyed reading about them. And I have to say that a lot of times the stories that were about other characters that I did not know from the Mary Poppins screen adaptation, I kind of enjoyed those a little bit more than the ones with the characters I did know. So I would recommend this book. I did like it. I just thought that the previous book I read I found a little bit more enjoyable, but I don't know, maybe it was the first one I read and I just really liked the writing, and so since that was the first one I read, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're actually equal, but that's what I gave it, and I would recommend that book to anyone who hasn't read it. So the next book I read was Pumpkinheads by Rowell, and I gave that 4 stars. That book was featured in another video I did, an update for Boot to You. So I won't get into too much detail about the book. I did really enjoy reading this book. It's a graphic novel, and it's, I think, the first graphic novel I've ever read, and I really liked the story. I liked the just the setting and the whole feeling, the vibe of this book, and the main characters were great. So I would definitely recommend this book, especially if you're a big fan of pumpkin patches and Halloween. I mean, you get all that in this story, and I really found it fun, so I would recommend it. The last book, I think it's the last book in my TBR, was The Railway Children by Edith Nesbit. This story is a children's classic, and I did this. I don't remember the name, what ticket it was, but I did it for the prompt for the rail. I don't remember the ride. It's up there. It's the train ride at Walt Disney World. If you've gotten on it, it's like a tour around the park. You know what I'm talking about. I will leave the name up here somewhere because I can't remember at the moment. But that was my inspiration for this book. And this book is a story of 3 children who, again, their father goes missing, and they move to the country, to a small college, and their life kind of changes exactly like in the Snow Rose story. And they discover a railway station near their home, and as children are apt to do, they go on adventures, and they befriend the employees of the railway. They make friends, and they have their adventures, and they eventually do find out what happens to their father. I don't want to spoil this for anyone who's maybe interested in reading it, but I would say if you've ever read Anne of Green Gables by Ella Montgomery, I think you will enjoy this book. It's kind of, to me, has a similar vibe of Anne of Green Gables. The children, just the way they're written kind of reminded me of the Anne of Green Gables series, and then maybe it's just the time period. I'm not sure if it is the same time period, but it did give me those Anne of Green Gables vibes, and I really enjoyed the book. I think I liked going back to that period of time when things are a little bit more simpler, and I really enjoyed the children as well. They were great kids, and they made the most of the situation that they were in, even though they had to be confused, wondering about what happened to their father. Where is he? Is he coming back? Will he come back? And yet also concerned about their mother and trying to make do with the life they are now leading. And I really did enjoy reading this book. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. I'm not sure if I mentioned that already. But let me know if you've read this book, what you thought about it. I really enjoyed the children, and I enjoyed the stories and their adventures that they got into. So I would recommend this book to anyone who was maybe interested in reading it. That is the last book on my TBR. Like I said, I did finish all the books on my TBR because, like I did switch out one Bronte for the other. So instead of reading Jane Eyre, I read Wuthering Heights for Haunted Mansion. But I am going to give you a bonus book. I am not finished with it at the moment, but while I was reading The Railroad Children, I was suggested, because while I was reading The Railway Children and when I updated my progress, I was suggested another tale about some children, a group of sisters actually, and let me see here because I can't remember the title, but here we go. It is The All of a Kind Family by Sydney Taylor. So I will leave a picture of that book up here for you to see. And I got kind of wrapped up in this book because I really enjoyed reading this story about these, I think there's, I'm not sure if there's 4 or 5 sisters. I think there's 4 sisters. But this story is about the sisters and their family, and you hear about, I haven't finished it, but I just wanted to mention it. Because I really am enjoying reading this book, and it kind of did sidetrack me on some of my TBR, and I actually had to pull myself away from reading it because there were books that I needed to finish on my TBR. So this is currently on my currently reading shelf on Goodreads, and I hope that I will finish it soon because this is just like a just feel good read for me. I want to finish it. This takes place I think around the same time period as The Railway Children. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it's like the well, maybe not, because I think that Railway Children is the early 1900s, and I think this story takes place in the 1920s or 1930s. But so this story is actually set in 1912, and there are 5 sisters. After I did a little bit of digging in my Goodreads app. So this family is Jewish, so their community is Jewish. So you kind of hear about their lives and just how life was back then. I think this book was first published in 1951, so quite a bit later than the time setting in this book. So it is a historical fiction. I think it's also middle grade genre as well. But I really enjoyed hearing these stories about these sisters. It takes place in the year of their childhood. I think it's a series, so I think there's more books about these sisters. And I really just got sucked into this book. So I want to finish reading it, but right now I am beginning another readathon. So I don't know if I will be able to finish it this month, but hopefully I can get in a couple of chapters in between some of the books that I will be reading. But I just wanted to share this book with you because I really enjoyed it. It is called All of a Kind Family, and like I said, I will put a photo up there for you so you can see the cover of the book. I am listening to this on audio, and I believe I do also have the book on e-reader with my Libby app as well. So I kind of do dual uh, readings, reading and listening, because I just find that I enjoy a book more when I do that. Sometimes I want to know, I want to see what I'm reading. That's the only thing with audiobooks. I like audiobooks, but I also like reading books because I like to see the words. I don't know. Are you like that? Leave me a comment if you're like that. Something about it. I find it more easier to absorb what I'm reading when I'm doing both. Because sometimes when you're listening to an audiobook, sometimes the dialect of the narrator or just the speed of the recording might hamper what you're reading. At least for me, I find that the case sometimes. I'm not sure, like I didn't understand what they said. So I really like if I can get the book in both formats so I can go back to the book and look and see, okay, this is what they were saying. And then also, like I said, I just like to sometimes just see the actual text of the book. But that's all I have for you in this for this video. Well, if you stuck around to this point, I hope you enjoyed this video and might possibly consider returning for more videos such as this. But until next time, take care. God bless. See you soon. Bye.